Your all-new e-commerce site that was built
stuck in a life that repeats, living in the now in between, pages from a magazine, instruction manuals for your dreams. This is where you stop and rewind. This is where our dreams are alive. Streaming through your heart that was mine. Living in my world that was yours. Do you guys? It was you all along. It was you all along. Waiting for a life that is life. Not my own, but yours all alone. Wide awake until you're home. Black on black, the roses gold. I was yours all along. 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 And don't go changing. I'm not leaving you. Don't go changing. I'm not leaving you.
Keep the shadows off my back, and my melodies on your tracks. Silly cinematic trouble on my mind. Lonesome is the road to leave it all behind. Remember what you did and never let it go. Keep it all inside and never say so. In your eyes you're still a child skimming stones. Look into the mirror, see you're getting old. Looking at each other, we are getting older. We are famous, we are all golden to anyone these days. We are all ageless, we are all chosen to anyone these days. To nobody, one day. Just like a smiling crescent moon, only a vision comes so soon. And I know I'm the worrying kind. Oh, I'm only trying to find. Remember what you did and never let it go. Keep it all inside and never say so. In your eyes, you're still a child skimming stones. Look into the mirror, see you're getting old. Looking at each other, we are getting older. We are all famous, we are all golden to anyone these days. We are all ageless, we are all chosen to anyone these days. To nobody, to nobody, one day.
I could have sworn I saw fireworks from your house last night. As the lights flickered and they failed, I had it all figured out. Why do I do this to myself every time? I know the way it ends before it's even begun. I am the only one at the finish line.
I took a trip out to the frozen lake, and you felt so far away. But I could feel it washing over me. There's no escaping harsh light of day. Why do I do this to myself every time? I know the way it ends before it's even begun. I am the only one at the finish stood out on that beach in Chicago, woke up next to you on Silver Lake Avenue. Wherever I went, I always knew to let it in now. Why do I do this to myself every time? I know the way this ends before it's even begun. I am the only one at the finish
continually experimenting with new ideas and techniques, reconstructing, developing, modernizing. Machines will do the heavy work. Men will supervise the machines.
You owe much to these machines. Horsepower, not manpower. Brains, not raw.
These men look the same as they have always looked. They talk as they have always talked. But before your eyes, they are changing.
Buy and sell you, terrorize you, mass destruct you, flood you, disconnect you, cluster rock you, we will crush you. I see television, pretty pictures of starvation. I see golden flowers, I see fragile, I see fragile.
Oh, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Allergy and Free From chat with me, Ben Corbett. I know what you're thinking. Ben, where the flip are you? Well, I've actually been in isolation for the last week. That's why the chat show is a week late this month. So I thought I would celebrate by bringing you guys out on a little walk in the Hertfordshire countryside. So here we are, just having a little walk across the fields, enjoying this lovely morning. But more importantly, who have we got coming up on the chat this month? From the Anaphylaxis Campaign, we have Lynne Regent. We have How to Coeliac, Morgan McKenzie Moore, doing a little cook along for us. But first, talking about being at school during lockdown with allergies, we have Poppy Saunders. Right, hey Poppy, thanks so much for giving up some time to come and chat to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun and exciting.
No worries, no worries. So could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your experience of allergies, just so people know why you're on the show today?
So I'm Poppy, I'm 17. I love all things creative, so art, painting, cooking, music, that kind of thing. I also love, prior to all of this situation, spending time with my friends, going to festivals, parties and movie nights, fun things like that. And I also happen to have allergy to nuts, dairy and gluten. I developed my nut allergy just after turning 16, very randomly. So I was having anaphylactic reactions. But prior to that, I'd been allergic to dairy for about 5 years and then gluten. So that's my allergy journey.
So your nut allergy is just relatively like new, like in the last sort of year and a half or something. That must have been because obviously you had stuff to deal with as it was with your other allergies. Did that come as a shock when that happened? Did you know what was going on straight away, or did it take some time for you to get to the bottom of it?
No, it was a major shock. I'd always said, my mum always had peanut butter for breakfast, and we always joked because I couldn't be in the same room as it. It made me feel so sick. And so I refused to eat nuts growing up because I was like, the thought of them just made me feel really ill. And then suddenly I was eating this bar, I didn't realise it had nuts in. Obviously, I didn't know I was allergic. I just kept off them because I didn't like them. And then I was like, Mum, my throat feels really weird. My throat feels really weird. And then suddenly I was like, no, I can't do this. And then it just developed and developed, and it was just a shock. And then overnight it was like, whoa, this is my new world. I now have to check the packets for everything even more, not just for dairy and gluten. I now need to really engage with this, because this isn't just I'll get a really sore tummy and feel a bit off for a week or so. This is a life thing. I now need to carry EpiPens. I need to be on this. And cross-contamination, it's a whole realm when you enter anaphylactic. It was pretty mental, but it's been a huge learning curve, and it was a shock, but it's been an interesting shock. And I think it's opened a lot of doors and made me realise that I really enjoy cooking, because suddenly you need to cook from scratch because your options are limited. So yeah, it's been useful from that point of view, but it was a huge shock having just developed it overnight.
And I guess you're talking about some of the things that you would like to do normally, going to parties and probably going out for dinner with friends and stuff like that. How do you find navigating that now that you have these sort of extra things to think about? There might be someone going through the same thing right now who's just been diagnosed, who's maybe worried about being in those situations.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you trust the people you're with, that makes a big difference. I know going to festivals, when my friends have been on it for allergies, it's been hugely, really, really helpful. So they'll ask, or they know not to just offer me food, because I might eat it and not think about it, and then they're like, oh my god, no, that had nuts in. But they know not to offer me food, stuff like that. They know how to use my EpiPens if they need to. That's a huge anxiety reliever for me. It's if I get myself in a tricky situation, someone can get me out of it if I'm unable to, which is really good. I think always carrying snacks. If you can't open a convenience store with what's in your bag, then you're doing this wrong. You always need to carry food. And just be aware that labelling with alcohol and drinks, they don't need to label their allergens. So things like gin, a lot of them have almonds in, something I didn't know, and I drank them and then suddenly developed an allergy, and it was oh, okay, I need to make sure that they really wash the measurers of shots and things like that, because
God, I imagine if you were 18, I imagine that would be a really, really difficult problem for you, wouldn't it? So
yeah,
I guess that's
definitely something I'll
but
be
yeah.
aware of as when I get older.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
So yeah, like particularly festivals, because I go to a lot of festivals too, and it does feel a little bit like you're in probably the least controlled situation you could possibly be in. So I think that's a really, really good example that you've given there. And I think that no matter what you're going through, having friends around you that you can trust is one of the most important things in life. But I guess that's even more important for you. And it sounds like you've got some good ones. So that's really
yeah,
cool.
very lucky.
So obviously you guys have all been going to school and stuff
Yeah.
recently, and have you been at school at all during lockdown, or you've been shielding for some of it? I know, or have you been shielding
Yes.
sort of for the whole time? What's been going on with you?
So I've been doing part-time school. I was going into school and then for lessons, things like that. A few lunches I went into, but mostly just for lessons in the current situation. And then more like recently, I've just been doing everything from home. So it's been very different, but not
But
necessarily
that's
bad.
not because of your allergies per se, right?
No.
Not that we have to
I've,
say, right, but like obviously just to say you're not hiding from peanuts at home
no,
because there's a pandemic or
not
anything
at
like
all.
that.
No, I've got Crohn's disease, so
Cool.
I am immunosuppressed.
Yeah. So when you have been at school, have you noticed like a difference to how things normally are for you? I mean, like, are there certain triggers that give you anxiety when you're at school to do with your allergies and stuff like that? How has it just been during the pandemic and stuff? Because obviously most of us have been at home or working from home and
Yeah,
stuff, and you guys are the ones that are all being told go to school no matter what, which is quite different to most of the population.
yeah, that's been weird because it's like, why is everyone being told to stay at home and then we're like, go back to normal? And I think because school is something that's can stay consistent more recently, then people sort of forget about COVID. It becomes this just bubble because it's normal. But in terms of allergies, I think if anything, anxiety is lowered in the pandemic because you're a lot more controlled, and a lot of lessons prior to this, you could have food in lessons, or the teachers may bring in snacks and things, and you can't do that anymore. So it's suddenly like you feel included, because before it was like, oh, I brought you all in a treat because you've been really good. Oh, but Poppy, you can't have that because it's got gluten in, or it's got dairy in, or something like that. And it's now like, oh, no one can have that. So that's good. And hand washing is so much more. So if someone's been eating nuts and then they're going through my book, I don't need to worry about that because everyone is washing their hands the whole time. So
that's
it's
really
great
interesting.
for someone with an allergy because you don't need to worry about it.
I guess like, yeah, you don't think of these things, like occasionally there's like a little sort of, I don't know, it's like a little bit of collateral that something just happens to give you a slight benefit. I heard someone talking the other day on the podcast I was listening to, and they're making quite an interesting point where they were saying people that go out into the world with absolutely no fear or anxiety and stuff are the people that have actually struggled the most during the pandemic, because it's like they've been going 100 miles an hour, never considering any consequences, and suddenly they have to stop and think about things. But those of us that have had anxiety before or have other reasons why they need to be a little bit more thoughtful about how they conduct themselves or food they eat and stuff like that, actually it's a little bit easier for them to adapt. Have you sort of felt that way, do you think?
Definitely, I think so, because in terms of like cooking from home, everyone is suddenly having to navigate their own meals. You can't just eat out anymore. You can't just order in. You can, but there was times when you couldn't, and that was most people's allergy lives day to day. We couldn't just do that, and so a lot of thought. I think with allergy people, you always have to think one step ahead. You have to think, right, okay, what have their hands touched? What have my hands touched? Like, oh, can't eat there. You have to phone ahead to a restaurant before you go there. You have to check for not just ingredients, but cross-contamination may contains. You always have to think ahead, and suddenly everyone else has to think ahead because that is the way life is going. So it's been quite interesting because I feel like my pace of life has always been a bit slower, having added complications, and suddenly everyone else needs to slow their pace of life down. So it's been quite nice in a way that everyone's on the same level.
Yeah, that's interesting. Definitely. I mean, I used to work in a school. So have you found the school been equally supportive as they've ever been? And usually schools are really well prepared to sort of help out with people with allergies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I couldn't fault my school. Like, my school have been amazing in terms of allergies. I think communication with schools is key. Allergies are definitely becoming more educated. People know more about them. Just as long as you communicate, most people are human and they want to help you. They don't want to make your life difficult, especially in school. Teachers, if they don't care about their pupils, they won't be doing that job. So you kind of need to think about it that they want to help you, like they want to help you if you're like stuck in a question in a lesson. They want to help you in other ways of your life as well. So if you communicate with them, they'll be there to assist you. So I think that's been the thing that I've found, that suddenly if I say I'm gluten free or dairy free, they're like, we'll make options for you, that's fine. But if you stay quiet, then for sure all you'll be able to eat is a carrot, because they don't know.
No, that's really good. And so, other than your school, has there been anybody else or any other organisations or anything that you found have been supportive or that you've got information from?
Online, there's a huge amount of information. People like you guys have been so helpful, so you don't feel alone. I think if you look for ways to help you, there are always people there who are willing to help, who have been through it time and time again. We're not alone. Like, we're not the only people with allergies. And we're all just trying to help each other. So there's definitely ways to look: social media, websites. Yeah. Amazing.
Okay, well, stick around and check out our next interview, because I'm going to be interviewing Lynne Regent, who's the head of the Anaphylaxis Campaign charity, and she'll probably have some information and some stuff that you might be interested in. That's really a place for you to look at some stuff, and they do loads of campaigns about like carrying your EpiPen and all of that sort of stuff. So that's quite cool. I think it's something you probably quite like. But thanks so much for giving up some time and some really, really good advice. And it's been really nice to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries.
Really, really good. Thank you.
Where can people find you online if they want to follow your journey and get some more tips and advice from you?
I've got a allergy Instagram account that I do, and my mum also does some stuff on there. Called Will Not Contain. So we do advice and recipes, products, things like that. Yeah. Perfect. Well, if you do recipes, you'll have to come back and do a cook along for us sometime. Definitely, that'd be great. I'd really love to do that. Awesome. Well, thanks, Poppy. Have a great day. Thank you. And you. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Thanks, Poppy, for coming on and having such an honest and interesting chat. Keep your eyes peeled on our website, because Poppy's going to be one of the first people to write a blog article for members of our Free From Club. There's going to be lots more information about the club coming out soon. But if you want to stay ahead of the game, you can get signed up now by going on the Allergy Show website. Next up, we have one of the leading figures in the allergy world, CEO of the Anaphylaxis Campaign, Lynne Regent. Okay, so Lynne, thank you so much for coming on and giving up some time for us today to come and have a chat.
Lovely to be here.
No worries. So for anyone maybe newly diagnosed or perhaps with a child that's been diagnosed, could you tell us a little bit about the Anaphylaxis Campaign and what you guys do?
Okay, well, my name is Lynne Regent, as you know, and I'm Chief Exec of the Anaphylaxis Campaign. Prior to joining the Anaphylaxis Campaign, I was a Chief Exec in the NHS. And then I joined the campaign over 12 years ago. It's a fantastic organisation. We're the only UK charity that solely supports people who have severe allergies and their families and carers. We're a relatively old charity, I suppose, in the sense that we were established about 26 years ago by David Redding, and his daughter ate some food in a cafe in a department store when she was 17 years old. She asked if the food had nuts in it and was told it didn't. And she subsequently died. And David Redding found then that there was very little information or support for people who were affected by severe allergies. He was a journalist, and he gathered together lots of senior politicians, other journalists. He reached out to other families. And as a result, around a kitchen table, the Anaphylaxis Campaign was born. And from then, we've gone on from strength to strength. David still remains as our honorary president until very recently was actually coming into work every week and supporting us in that way as well. So we've got a very strong, proud tradition. The most important thing we do is to provide information which is all clinically based and extremely sound. We have a clinical panel of all the top clinical experts across the country who check all our information for us, so it's reliable and it's sound. As well as giving that information through all channels, we have Instagram accounts, websites, Facebook. Some of the things that some of my staff use, I don't even know what they are, but basically, bottom line, a massive Twitter account, both I have personally on behalf of the campaign, as do the campaign. We get that information out there because there's a lot of misinformation about allergies. And it's important to us that people have correct information and can always rely on us as a completely reliable source. And the other thing we do is we provide support. So we have a helpline that runs 9 to 5, 5 days a week. People can contact us by phone, through various other channels, you know, be it Twitter, be it Facebook, via our website. We're open to anyone approaching us so that we can support them at their individual time of difficulty and provide them with advice. And the other thing that we do is we advocate for people if they're having difficulties. And the clue is in the name, we campaign. There's still such a lot to do with regard to severe allergies, and we see ourselves as the prime campaigning organisations to continue to make things better. Things are very different from what they were 26 years ago when David Redding started on this journey, but there's still an awful lot to do.
That's interesting, actually. It takes me right on to my next question. As someone that's worked with the Anaphylaxis Campaign for 12 years, I sort of wondered, in that time, how have you seen the community change, and how have you seen things change around allergies in maybe the media and indeed in shops and cafes and all that sort of stuff?
Well, the world is a very, very different place now. People use different channels. If you think back 12 years ago, people weren't constantly using the internet, for example. So we used to send lots and lots of information out in printed form. People contacted us largely via the telephone. The world is a different place, and it's changing all the time. So the way that we work with people, the way that we advocate, the way that we're in touch with people is completely different. The other thing is we've had some fantastic changes that have happened over the past 12 years. And we've had changes in the law that have happened. So most recently, the Natasha's law, where the labelling changes happened. All sorts of things have happened, and a lot of that has been due to the bravery, and I mean the bravery, of people who've actually been very, very significantly affected by severe allergies, and like David originally, have lost loved ones and have spoken out for change, and as a result, those changes have happened. Unfortunately, and it is very unfortunately, sometimes it takes something really dreadful to happen for change to take place. So not this year so much, because this has been a weird and wonderful year, as we know, but in previous years I've attended a number of inquests, and as a result of inquests we've seen change. So the world is a different place, and it's a safer place. However, there are now more people who are affected by severe allergies. Prevalence has increased, so there are more people to help. And again, the world has changed in the way that we live. So there are people who are maybe taking more risks because of the way we live. So it is a very different world, certainly from when I joined the campaign and from when it was established.
I think linking to one of the things you were just saying about how the way people communicate has changed so much over the last decade or so. One of the things that's really hit me, and I've been now working in this field for only a year, but one of the things that really hits home with me is how close the community is. And I guess it is online forums and those sorts of opportunities that allow people to feel like they're not alone. And obviously, it's brilliant to be able to pick up the phone to someone, and something really cool that you guys have always been able to provide. But then also seeing all the other people that have the same issues that they have and the same problems, I think is a really powerful thing. And that's often how people are able to mobilize together to sort of force the change that you were talking about. So I guess these new methods of communication can only be a good thing for the campaign.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult year for everybody. It's been not a very nice year in a number of ways. For example, for us, obviously it's challenging because we don't have any commercial activity. Most of our courses, our online courses, are free to everybody. Our resources are all free. We don't have our logo placed on anything to make money or anything of that type. We are not a commercial organisation. We rely on fundraising and sponsorship, and fundraising has been terribly difficult this year. So this year has been financially challenging for us as a charity. It really has. However, on the plus side, we've reached out to more people because our support groups, for example, were physical support groups we run up and down the country. Now that we run virtual support groups, getting people together was always challenging because we're a UK-wide charity. But we've had fantastic meetings of our clinical panel, all the top experts across the country who can meet us in a Zoom meeting, whereas getting them physically together has been difficult. Our corporate food panel, who are brilliant at supporting us. The food industry, we have all the major retailers, food manufacturers, food service companies. They're all paying members of the Anaphylaxis Campaign, and their leaders meet with us in the corporate food panel. As you can imagine, again, getting those people in one room in London has been challenging, whereas actually this year, it's been great because we've had Zoom meetings, and providing you time them at the right time, everyone is very happy to join and give you their skill and expertise. And similarly, we've met with our support group leaders across the country. We usually meet once a year at a training event, a physical training event. We've had lots of chat conversations with them this year because we can meet them through Zoom. And the other thing that has been fantastic this year, and we were forced into it, it was a new way of working, but it's been marvellous, is the number of webinars we've done. And we've done about half a dozen or so webinars so far. I'm doing another one tonight with the author Maggie O'Farrell, who you may know wrote a book and has a child who's affected by severe allergies, and she's doing an online webinar with me tonight. They've all been oversubscribed. Even webinars we've held on things like cleaning in factories and testing, and the experts who've done the webinars with me have said, well, you know, I don't know how many people will be interested, and we've been blown away. So there have been difficulties this year, there's no doubt about that, but there have been other things that have made our outreach better and made us think in different ways. And not hopefully next year, when everyone's got the vaccine, we'll go back to something like what we used to, how we used to be, but it'll never be the same again, and nor should it be.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I expect there'll be a few people that might be interested in seeing some of your webinars and stuff. Can people find out about them on the Anaphylaxis Campaign website, a list of what's coming up?
Absolutely. We have a number of webinars. We've got a very strong program coming up over the next few months. Some are targeted at healthcare professionals, some are targeted at individuals, some are targeted at industry, so they vary. But we have the top experts in their field, and they are always available live. We do them live, and then we put the actual webinar on our website. And for members, people who join us, because we're a membership organisation, so people pay a small amount every year to be individual, professional or corporate members.
Okay.
They can actually get hold of the presentations.
Right. Okay.
Also, some of the webinars, obviously, we give priority to members because, as I explained, it's such an important source of income for us. For someone paying sort of £19 a year to be an individual member, it's great they do that to support us, but we want to give them something back in return, though our information and our basic support and advocacy is available to everybody.
Brilliant.
But
Thank
everyone can see the webinars on our actual website.
Okay, cool. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much. It's been some really, really great information about the Anaphylaxis Campaign. But before I let you go, I'd like to just ask for a little bit of a practical advice question, really. If I said to you that if you were talking to a newly diagnosed person or the parent of a child who's been newly diagnosed, what would the first most important piece of advice you would give them about living with their severe allergies?
That's an easy one for me. I think this trips off the tongue very easily, and anyone who knows me knows this is the first thing I ask them when I meet them. Always carry your adrenaline. Always carry 2 adrenaline auto-injectors. At the moment, the ones available are EpiPen and Jext. Emerade is not available. If you do have an Emerade, change it. Go to your prescriber, go to your pharmacist and get it changed. You should be carrying 2 Jext or 2 Emerade or 2 EpiPens at all times. Make sure they're the correct dose. There's a junior 150 and a senior at the 300, but it's based on weight. So just because you have a child of 9, 10, they may need to have the large 2 pens at the larger dose. Always make sure that you're carrying 2 pens of the correct dose, that they're in date. We know about a third of pens carried are out of date because people don't use them like you would if you were a diabetic, use your pen. So they forget, but make sure they're in date. And then I've taken 3 up. I know you asked for 1. I'm going to say 1 more.
No, please.
Make sure the people around you know that you are affected by severe allergies, know that you are carrying adrenaline, and know how to use that adrenaline. And that's a difficult one for some young people, but it's so important. If you were to have an anaphylactic reaction, that the people around you know what to do and can recognize anaphylaxis. And we have free courses for families, for schools, for childminders, anybody who wants to do a half-hour online course available through our website, completely free, and they can see what anaphylaxis is and what to do in an emergency and how to recognize it. So that's more than you asked for, but
that's brilliant. Thank you, Lynn.
Really key messages to keep people safe.
Thank you, and you'll be pleased to know I have done my training, even though I don't have allergies myself, and no one in my family does. So, if anyone needs me, I'm ready.
Excellent. Well
okay,
done.
Thanks so much for giving up your time today.
It's a pleasure.
No worries. And obviously, everyone get to the Anaphylaxis Campaign website so they can sign up, be members. help donate, keep the organisation going and being effective, and get the vital information that you need. Thanks very much, Lynne.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynne. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Lynne for giving up her time to come and chat allergies with us today. If you want to know a bit more information about the Anaphylaxis campaign, go to their social channels or check out their website. Next up, you might know her from Instagram as How to Coeliac. If you don't, you should. She does some really funny but really brilliant videos, and also some good recipes and all that sort of stuff. She's going to be doing our cook along today. So next up for the cook along, it is Morgan McKenzie Moore.
Hi, I'm Morgan from How to Coeliac, and today I'm going to teach you how to make the Australian and New Zealand specialty lamingtons. Lamingtons are a light sponge cake that have been iced and rolled in coconut and usually served with jam and cream. And they are so easy to make gluten-free, so let's get into it. Right, to make the sponge you will need 125 grams of butter, 150 grams of caster sugar, 4 eggs, 250 grams of gluten-free self-raising flour, 40 grams of corn flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of xanthan gum, and half a cup of milk. To get started, let's turn the oven on to 180 degrees Celsius and line a baking tin with baking paper. I like to cut the corners out of my baking paper so it fits in the tin a little bit more nicely and doesn't crinkle the sponge. To start off, let's combine the softened butter with the caster sugar in a large bowl and beat that until it's light and fluffy. Once that's done, we're going to add in 1 egg and then whisk until it's combined, and then repeat with the rest of the eggs. By the end of this, you should have a lovely smooth and pale mixture, and try not to leave the eggshell in there like I did. In another bowl, we're going to combine the gluten-free self-raising flour, corn flour, xanthan gum and baking powder, and give it a light mix so they combine. Then we're going to pour half the dry mixture into the egg mixture and fold them in gently. Now we want to be folding so we don't break those very precious air bubbles that make a sponge, so be careful not to overbeat this part. Then we'll add in half the milk and repeat the folding process. And after that, you're going to add in the rest of the flour, fold again, and then add in the rest of the milk. And you'll know you've done it right if you've got a nice, smooth, airy cake batter. Then we're going to pour the cake batter into the prepared tin. And smooth out the top as best you can. Right, that's ready to go in the oven now for 30 minutes. You'll know it's ready when you can insert a skewer into the middle and it comes out clean. After the 30 minutes, turn off the oven and leave the door slightly ajar for 10 minutes. This will stop the sponge from sinking so much. After the 10 minutes, you can take it out of the tin and put it on a cooling rack. For the chocolate icing, you'll need 50 grams of melted butter, 1 cup of icing sugar, half a cup of cocoa powder, and 1/4 cup of milk. For the strawberry icing, you will need 1 cup of icing sugar and 3 tablespoons of strawberry jelly crystals. You'll also need 2 cups of desiccated coconut. So we're going to make the chocolate one first. You want to add the icing sugar, melted butter, and cocoa powder to a bowl and whisk that to combine. Once that's combined as best you can, go ahead and add in the milk and mix until you've got a really smooth consistency. If it's still a bit thick for your liking, you can go ahead and add another 1/4 cup of milk. You want it to be quite a thin batter because if it's too thick, it'll be hard to dip the sponges in. To make the strawberry icing, dissolve the jelly crystals in 1/4 cup of hot water. Then you want to add in sifted icing sugar and mix again until it's all combined. Carefully add in water until it has a crepe batter consistency, one that will be easy to dip sponges in. When the sponge is completely cooled, you can cut off the edges. I like to cut off the sides so that the icing can be absorbed more into the sponge. Then cut the sponge into 16 squares. If you'd like to, you can cut off the tops to make them perfect squares, but if you don't mind a little bit of a lumpy lamington, then don't bother. Then we're going to take the cooled sponge and dip it into our mixtures. So some recipes will ask you to do this with a skewer by sticking the sponge onto a skewer and then dipping it in. I find that with a gluten-free cake, it doesn't hold too well and will quite often fall to pieces on it. So I like to use my fingers. It does get a little messy, but you know, it's a lot more fun. Repeat with the rest of the squares until they're all finished and then set aside for 30 minutes. And here is the final product. I like to serve mine cut in half with fresh cream and jam in the middle. These will keep up to 3 days in a sealed container, but if you've got cream in them, best to eat them on the day. And there you have it. Thank you so much to the Allergy and Free From show for having me on today. If you'd like the recipe, you can find it on my website, how-to-celiac.com, or you can find it on my Instagram and YouTube at how-to-celiac. Thanks!
Okay, so that's it for this month, except for me to say thank you to Lynne, thank you to Poppy, and thank you to Morgan for being our guests. Keep an eye out for next month's chat. It's going to be a big Christmas cook-along, so you'll get all of your hints and tips for cooking free from this Christmas. Also, keep an eye out for the Allergy and Free From Club. We're going to be launching that in earnest very soon. There's going to be exclusive content, blog articles, and offers. So if you want to stay ahead of the game, get over to our website and get yourself signed up now. Until next month, stay safe, free fromers.